Right, okay, I'm going to show you something today that you really should master, okay, to be really good at golf. It's a very simple thing, but it's a key little exercise that I want you to train. It's going to really teach you some skills that you really need in order to develop your game and really improve and get a lot of consistency. So come on, let's go do it. Okay, so this is a really quick one, all right, for you. So there's a couple of things that you need to learn to do, and this two actions here really that's going to really help to improve your golf and give you a much clearer understanding of how these parts work. It's almost a Mr. Miyagi type sort of thing where we're going to teach you these skills and basically they will bleed and blend into your full swing, and that's what you want to try and do because the actions are exactly the same. It's based around sort of like a pitching action, but it's really important that you learn to master this. All right, now it's simple. It looks simple, but some golfers really find this quite hard to do. And after a bit of period of time, they get better at it and they can start to master it. Now, all you're going to need, I mean, I brought my pitching wedge down here, but you can use just a 50-60 degrees, something like that. And you can try and master this as best as you possibly can. Now, it's a really simple thing, but all you're going to do is you're just going to take a very narrow stance. Let's just get rid of that because that's annoying me. So all you're going to do is just take a very narrow stance. You're going to play your ball sort of off the back side of your stance a little bit here. And all I want you to learn to do is to just make a series. I'll get my left hand out of the way. A series of just one arm swings. All right, back and forth. And the key here is to feel the right arm is swinging independently of the shoulder. And what I'm not doing here, I'm not using my body hardly at all. All right, and what I'm doing here is just swinging back and through. I'm catching the ground. Okay, even on the backswing, I'm catching the ground. But I'm just learning to disassociate this arm from my shoulder. Now we hear a lot of people about connection. You know, you've got to keep everything tight and so on. That's the problem. When you keep everything moving at the same time, everything gets tight in the shoulders. Okay, grip pressure doesn't matter as much as shoulder tension. Okay, if I have my shoulders too tight, then I can't move it freely. Okay, and I have a lot of sway and move going on. So I want to try and learn, first of all, to swing this arm freely from the shoulder. All right, it's a pendulum style action, a swinging back and forth. And it teaches me quite a lot of things when I do this as well, especially if I'm holding the club fairly loose. Teaches me a lag, all right, or inertia. So as I'm swinging back, the club head wants to stay up there, but my hand and arm brings it down, so it creates this sort of lag angle as I swing down and through, and then I have to release it. So it's really important that you learn to do this first, okay? And you can just chip a few balls doing it, okay? And I do this pretty much every single day. So I'm playing the ball just slightly back off my stance, and all I'm going to do here is just swing back and just swing through and just chip the ball down the fairway. Doesn't need any great shakes. No, there's nothing great or drastic about this. So weight's a little bit on my left leg, ball's a little bit on my back foot, and I'm just going to swing back and just swing through. And I'm mastering this this action, this freedom. Okay, I used to listen to a gut chap when I was working in Kent. A place called Kings Hill it was, and there was a pro that used to come and teach there, and he was a great guy called George Will. And George was a great tour player back in the 60s and so on, and he played with, you know, the likes of Jack Nicklaus. He played at the Masters, you know, the Opens, and he played in the Ryder Cups, played in 3 Ryder Cups I think it was. Unfortunately he's no longer with us. He was a great guy though. He was a lovely guy, lovely character. And one of the things he used to say to me was, you have to disconnect in order to reconnect. All right, I never understood that at the time, but I do now, because you have to feel the arms do have to have an element of disconnection from the body. If you swing everything together too much, and we hear this thing of swinging everything together and connection is what we hear, but sometimes you need these parts to work independently, but then you melt them together. You have to work on them separately and then bleed them together to work in their own way, and they do tie up, and this is where timing comes in. All right, but this element, this action here, is really important. Now, it's very important to understand and remember that my shoulder is staying fairly level. What I'm not doing here is I'm not dipping down as I do this. I'm not allowing the shoulder to come down. I'm keeping this still, okay? My body is staying relatively still, and I'm just swinging the hand and arm independently of the body. Just back and just through, all right? Now, you'll notice as well, I know I'm only doing little chip shots here, but they were relatively straight. Okay, they're going straight towards the middle of my net here, okay, which is where I've got these yellow lines marked up. How does that happen? Now, when I'm doing this action, and when I'm swinging just my arm independently, all I'm doing here is I'm allowing this wrist to work back and forth in this motion, okay? Now, when I do this action, if I do it from here, you'll see how my wrist is just working back and forth in this motion. What I'm doing here is my wrist is hinging as if I'm throwing something. If I was going to throw a ball at the camera here, let's say, and throw it this way, my hand would work in this action, okay, or this action, all right? Now, what that involves when I do that, no forearm rotation whatsoever, okay? My club face would be the same. So it's the same thing on my golf swing, okay? So when I do this, I'm going to hinge the wrist back, okay? So I'm hinging it back on itself and then through. This will teach you how the right hand works. So my right hand works backwards on itself, unhinges, and then rehinges on the way through. There's no forearm action as I do this. There's no twisting of the wrists or the hands. So I'm just going to learn to go back and through. And everything will go relatively straight. And that's really a key element to learn. This will be the same, this will blend up eventually once you start to swing a driver. So just back and through. All right, everything goes relatively straight. Now I can change trajectory with this, just that right hand action. I can change trajectory. So if I want the ball to go a little bit lower, I'll just keep the bend in the wrist a little bit for longer. And that will take loft off the club face. So if I do that, loft is suddenly taken off. If I want the ball to go higher, I'll allow the club head to pass the hands, and I'll increase the angle in my wrist. Okay, so I can go higher, lower, normal. And I can practice that. I can practice that just with my right hand. So let's go higher. So higher. Okay, I allow that to release. Went a little left on me. So just go higher. Okay, it's going a little higher. Got that a little bit thin. If I want it to go lower, just chop it down low. So I kept the angle there for longer. All right, so it goes a little lower. So I can play around with it. I can mess about with trajectory and learn how to control trajectory just by playing with my right wrist. Okay, all from learning how to do this. Now, this is skills that you learn to develop when you're practicing, because I can add these in to my full swing. Okay, so just going to swing back and through. Okay, that's normal, and so on. Now I can do this all day. Hit it lower. It's easier with a wedge to do this one, but higher. Just caught the ground a little early. I was probably looking more at the target then. So yeah, so just practice that, and that's really, really key. Now, once you've done that a few times, then I want you to add in a little bit of leg action, okay, or the left hip. So what I want you to do once you've done that a few times, so you're learning to just do this, feet fairly close together. Okay, I'll take my hand out now. So you're just going to swing this arm freely back and forth, okay, working on that right hand action, back and forth. But then I want you to start to time in now the left hip pushing back as you do this. So left hip, I'm using my left leg to push the left hip back just as I do this. So if I do it to the camera, so I'm just swinging one-handed back and forth with just my arm, and now I'm going to blend in this left hip pushing back. So it's pushing backwards as I swing the club head through. And it's really important you time that up. So as the club head is pushing or swinging down, my right arm is pushing the club head through, my left hip is pivoting or pushing away from the ball. Okay, this is a speed producer, but it's also going to help me to swing the club on the right path and etc, etc. But you're just going to try and blend that now into the motion. So ball back in the stance. I'm just going to feel that hip as I come down to hit it. I'm going to push that hip back and push it back as I swing through. So back and through. Again, this is teaching you all the key elements that you need in order to hit the ball properly for a full swing. So I'm just going to swing back and through. Oh, bailed out on that one. So I'm just going to swing back and push through. Very good. Okay, I got that one. Now it's a trick to work on. And then what I can do, once I've done that is I can put my left hand on and I can try and feel that action. So my right arm and wrist working correctly, and I'm going to push that left hip back and through as I swing through. So stand here, weights a little bit on the left side, back and through. Okay, I'm feeling that pushing away. So that's really a skill to develop. This is a development skill, okay, in order to get better at golf. Now it seems like you're only hitting wedges here and so on, but it's one of those skills that if you can learn to do this, it then will translate into a fuller swing as you start to get more into it. Okay, so as I start to make, all I'm going to do is make a slightly bigger turn as I do this. So I swing back, I can still feel my right hand and right wrist working correctly. I'm just going to go L and L. Okay, I'm pushing back as I swing through. Let's try that again. So I'm just going to go L to L, and I'm pushing that hip back. It takes time and it's development. If you can develop this, you're going to keep the club face stable through impact, so you're not rolling the wrists because you're learning how to use the right arm and the wrist correctly. And then I'm adding in pivot by just pushing the left hip back as I swing through. So you're just going to go back and through. I'm pushing that left hip back. So you can learn to develop slowly as you go through, and you'll get improve and you'll get better, and you'll start to improve the stroke without even realizing it. All right, so that's really what I want you to go and practice on. It's a challenge, it's a skill that you have to learn to develop, but I've got faith in you. I know you can do it. Okay, so anyway, go and try that out. Comment below, you know, if it works, if it doesn't, or if you've got any questions about it, please let me know and I'll try and answer back as well as soon as possible. Anyway, thank you for watching, and please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next week.